Hey, this is Shamichael Hallman with Code for the Kingdom, and I'm so happy to have on the line with me today Kevin Koym. Kevin is the founder and CEO of TechWrench. Kevin, how are you today, sir?
Doing great. Thanks for this opportunity to work with you guys today.
Well, thanks so much for your time. We've heard some great things. At least I have heard some great things about TechWrench, but I want to know if you could maybe give us a little history and insight on where you are with TechWrench today.
Yeah, so TechWrench is a type of incubator. We work with early stage technology entrepreneurs here in the Austin area, historically in Chile, Mexico, and a few in Singapore as well, but mainly in Central Texas. What we are is we're the type of incubator that we are is we're what we call an entrepreneur development organization, in that we help entrepreneurs at the earliest stages of building startup companies to become successful. A lot of the idea is to build a community around them, because a lot of times entrepreneurs at those early stages don't have an advocate for them to kind of help them capture themselves, especially if if they're taking big risk. The type of risk might be a lot of our entrepreneurs have social concerns that they're really trying to change the world for the better, not just build businesses that create money, but social concerns that for building companies that build the world for the better. And so a lot of times, because they're taking risk, this community really is a powerful thing to help them get to the next level.
Gotcha. And so can you give us maybe an idea of the type of startups that are at TechWrench right now?
Yeah, so with this idea, we not only think about this notion of economic impact, where high tech usually is all about economic impact, but also over here about social impact. We call this this corner, or this idea, transformational entrepreneurship. The idea is that the entrepreneur is doing something to transform the world for the better, as well as the same process oftentimes is transforming the individual, he or she, on getting to the next level. Some of the ones that I love sharing about is, like as an example, one of our entrepreneurs, a gentleman by the name of Aaron Gray, started a company called Aunt Bertha. Aunt Bertha picks up where Uncle Sam drops off. That is, what is the woman that has two children but doesn't necessarily have anyone else to turn to? There's actually a lot of governmental and non-governmental programs for a person like her, like the mother of two, but that has no one else to turn to. If she can't find those programs, though, they don't exist. What she can do is actually register herself with Aunt Bertha, and then the programs can find her. That would be one example. Another example that comes to mind is we have a company called CareStarter. CareStarter is what happens after you walk out of the hospital and you just got a terrible diagnosis for one of your loved ones. Well, typically, most doctors just say, well, here's the list of providers, and it's a piece of paper that you follow up on and you make some phone calls. In CareStarter's case, they have come up with a whole way to care for the individual and their family so they can register and find the next set of steps. A third one that comes to mind is called Stretch. Stretch is a application, that based on the phone for the individuals that say you only have, there are individuals that are getting food stamps that might only have $50 to eat this week. And in the case of the founder of Stretch, and the idea being stretch your dollars so you can actually eat better,
yeah, gotcha.
She gives an example about how one of her family members, used this a bit of money and only was buying Pepsi and Cheetos. Well, the problem, of course, in that case is, the individual wasn't getting to eat well. So she actually has, with using this application, she helps individuals eat better and eat healthier so that they can have better long-term outcomes from their lives, but still being able to do it on a budget.
Wow.
That gives you kind of quite literally, we've had we've had more than 400 entrepreneurs go through our Venture Forth program, but those three kind of really are characteristic of the ones that I really think are exciting about what's happening around the TechWrench.
Yeah, that's great. So that social element seems to be a very important part of what's happening at TechWrench. Is that something that you kind of intentionally create, or you kind of intentionally make that happen, or how does that happen? How does that come about?
Well, a little bit it comes from my background, and I'm an Eagle Scout, was also involved highly in my church, especially as a youth, and actually had done a lot of community service as a kid. Just it's naturally who I've historically been. And, you know, my father is an example. Started 4 nonprofits during the course of my life. But you know, it's always been part of the set of concerns that I was raised with. But what's happening is, I mean, most of my early career, the first 10 years of my career, in fact, as an entrepreneur, I was building disruptive technologies for changing the world. Like I built the first internet banking app. I built the first high-scale e-commerce engine for Dell Computer Corporation. Different startups that I built along the way were doing that. I had this personal tragedy that happened a decade ago where a friend of mine took her own life, and it really kind of made me step back and reevaluate what I was doing in the world, and especially in following my beliefs about how the world could be, and using that same capability that I developed really well as a startup entrepreneur, working for industry. But how can we shift that and still have this be about business, but you know, do things that change the world? And a lot of what's happened in that painful transition and that painful process of dealing with the results of losing a friend in that way was to create Tech Ranch and to create this incubator that we have. But from there, I think a lot of times what entrepreneurs don't realize is even the guy who's just focused on high tech, a lot of times they don't realize that there is a pathway to actually have not only a successful high-tech venture, but have it be something that serves in the world. Or the social entrepreneur who's got a great idea for, you know, how they want to help people, but they haven't looked at how they can scale their business. We like to interact, and even if they're from one of those 2 poles, we like to interact and show them a pathway to what we call transformative entrepreneurship, right? Where they can actually not only be transforming an industry, but also making an impact in the world. And I think that it's just part of the conversation that comes out of our community. You know, now because of a lot of her successes have been along the lines of the Aunt Bertha companies of the world, you know, we are starting to collect more entrepreneurs that specifically come to us from that. But I am quite proud of the fact that it's not just these change agents. We're also, you know, working with individuals who might have had a different idea when they started, just to produce a company that makes money. And we show them the pathway to how they can also make a difference, not just make money.
Yeah, the Aunt Bertha startup. I mean, that sounds, you know, phenomenal. And just, you know, as a, you know, working at a church, I could immediately see the impact that would have on a local church and partnering with other nonprofit and parachurch organizations. Do you see that a lot with where you are right now, where the church is embracing some of these technologies, or what would you say to the church that may be looking to go after that, looking to try to figure out, you know, how do we take our mission and blend that with technology? How do we make technology help us in our efforts to advance the kingdom and kind of deal with societal ills?
Well, you know, so I actually think that the church has a very important place in this process, and it has. You know, when I went through the tragedy that happened, it was my belief that gave me the pathway to finding some place to stand. But you know, after, you know, a perfectly good career, and then tragedy happens, and you know, it was the church that actually helped, and my beliefs that helped me find a way out of that. And you know, it wasn't exactly pretty all that time. One of the things we see here in Austin, in the Austin area, there's a number of different employers that are actually laying off literally tens of thousands of people. One of the local employers, you know, is laying off 15,000 people, and
Wow.
and it's going to all happen. It's all happening right now. It's kind of happening, you know, throughout the rest of this year. I think the church not only can embrace technology for helping the mission, but part of the process that I'd like to see go deeper is a lot of these individuals that are losing their jobs don't have a natural place to go to be thinking about the next steps. And I think the church is uniquely qualified in showing the path to Christ, that also ends up being the path of how they can actually step back into new opportunities. I believe that the pathway of being an entrepreneur is a hero's journey. And in following, you know, in my own beliefs in Christ about how we can actually use that process. This, someone losing their job where they've actually been working on their career for such a long time, but they unexpectedly lose it because of the safety of the corporate job is going away in this country. I think that one of the things I'd like to see happen in the voice of the church across the nation is that we're helping these individuals get back connected. The power of the Tech Ranch model in this example is we're creating communities of individuals that many of them are dealing with just getting laid off or having some tragedy happen. That then, instead of just being a victim to the tragedy or a victim to the layoff, they're organizing in groups, and those groups actually end up being the launch pad for those individuals to go to different places, especially, especially for the individuals that are saying that they've had this corporate experience, but now they don't necessarily have the next place to go. Or perhaps because of the massive layoffs in a community, there's no natural place for these people to go get jobs, and so they're going to have to create their own jobs. I think that the church has an excellent place, and the path to Christ is a similar. It's similar to the path of the entrepreneur. They're not separate. I think many times in the business literature they're kept separate, but I know for myself, it's only because I had my relationship with Christ that I actually was able to find a way out of the tragedy that happened. And I think that we'll see this happen with the churches that are supporting their individuals, not only in their spiritual journey, but in their journey of actually developing their lives, which, obviously there's no separation in those things.
Gotcha. Now, the common thread for us is, of course, Code for the Kingdom, particularly the Austin event. And we both kind of got to see, a snippet of what happens, when you allow and get Christian entrepreneurs and developers in a room and they're able to create things. That kind of gives me great hope. What are you seeing in the Austin area in that? I mean, I know we did Code for the Kingdom. Are you seeing other things like that, other Christian based events like that?
Yeah, so I'm quite happy to say that the local meetup group, we've only met up a handful of times, but the truth be told, it's already got 87 members here locally and it's specifically around the conversation around Christian technologists and entrepreneurs, and obviously that meetup group, to start from just out of Code of the Kingdom, but to have that much muscle behind it is pretty exciting to see. As well as I think that there are a number of individuals that are getting that because of being touched or, hit by these situations, like in each one of the three examples I gave earlier, there's actually a very painful story that the entrepreneur went through, that instead of just crumbling from that painful story, they're actually standing up and saying, hey, this is important, and they're going to go do something with those energies. And then, back to the Code for the Kingdom, actually the hackathon itself, it was great to see applications that had never been envisioned before come out of that work. One of the examples that I just got an update about yesterday was this one about how do we deal with the problem of human trafficking that's happening still. I don't understand how it's possible that it could still happen in our world, but it is happening in our world. That application came out of the local Code for the Kingdom process, the hackathon, and it's important that this group of guys started with these 3 days, took a chance on an idea. It's actually now got some real legs behind it, for taking on an issue that, for whatever reason, has been neglected, and so this is important work to see happen. Great.
I want to go back just for a few moments to talk about some of the startups that you mentioned with Aunt Bertha and Stretch. For churches or pastors or nonprofits that are hearing this now, where can they get more information about that? And are those things scaled out to where they can maybe be embraced in different cities from Austin?
Well, so certainly out of the three, CareStarter and Aunt Bertha have both recently taken on significant rounds of funding. So they're actually in the growth mode. And you can go to techranchaustin.com and read on our startups, actually techranchaustin.com/startups, and you can read about a variety of different startups that are there. I would be happy to direct individuals to those startups as well through my email. Just give me a little bit of time to respond, but Kevin@TechRanchAustin.com is my email address. The fastest way by far, though, would just go to TechRanchAustin.com/startups, and you'll see the portfolio of startups that are there. But like I said, we'll see many of those connect. Stretch is right now in the early stages and is in the process of doing their early betas. And so they would be very interested in connecting with other communities that are very serious about this, about helping populations leverage the money that they have for eating right. And so again, in that case, I would prefer to receive emails directly that all connect to the founder so that she can actually take.
Gotcha. Okay. Just a few more questions as we get ready. I know you're a very busy guy. It's amazing what you've been able to accomplish at Tech Ranch, and to be able to get these companies and these startups in. What about, for the person who's not, because I still kind of see this element with the church, the person who's not in Austin, who doesn't have access to a Tech Ranch, what steps should they be taking if they've got an idea like that,
So know that we're in the process of actually, we recognize, especially with the work that we've done outside of the country, that part of our work now needs to be making our tools more virtual, and we are in that process. So first and foremost, if someone's interested, have them, sign up on our email list, and we'll publish a lot of what's happening. We do some level of virtual hangouts, and we're actually going to be increasing that because I do believe that these tools for startup success need to get in more hands. And the hangouts that we've done, like the virtual interactions that we've done, have all been free. And it's part of my concern about, I was lucky with the gifts that I was given in my early startup career. So I'd like to be able to share those, as well as if there are specific individuals that are looking to bring a model like this to their town. Our whole model of how we've been able to do this work across these different countries is partnering with other organizations. And like the model that we help build out is working with the university and a local larger organization and a set of entrepreneurs. And these entrepreneurs could certainly come from a specific church. That is, I'd be more than happy about that, to see that type of work happen. The other side, too, as we've seen from Chris Armas, the guy who started Code for the Kingdom, just starting a local meetup group of concerned Christian technologists and entrepreneurs has a powerful focus. And so I would even say, even if you don't have access to an incubator and for whatever reason not able to participate with Tech Ranch, that's fine. The thing to start doing is just locally organize. There is more knowledge. There's a whole concept called the wisdom of the crowds. There's much more knowledge in the community than most people even realize about how 5 minutes of your time in my startup's history can be extremely powerful. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times I think that in my own case, it was in the 90s, in the early stages, when I didn't have anyone to turn to, and Austin did not have the entrepreneurial base it does now. The whole way that we actually got to the next steps, and we don't have as many investors, say, as the Bay Area does, right? So we didn't have Silicon Valley's access and stuff like that. The thing we did was we put together these small groups of entrepreneurs. The first group I was in, me and one other individual put together 14 entrepreneurs, and we just got together in a meetup group. This could happen at a church, just to say, hey guys, we have this group of individuals that are forming together as a meetup, just like we're doing with the Austin Christian Technologists and Entrepreneur Meetup. Just get them together, and hey, if you're interested in starting something, come on over to the meetup. And if you've already started something and you want to be a part of this conversation, just get together. There's much more power in community and in the church than a lot of people recognize, because a lot of times the idea historically has been, let's go find the expert from some far off place. But I always say to my entrepreneurs, you have all the answers that you need. It's just a matter of finding that community that's going to support you. And the beautiful thing about the church community is there's already this tie, this thread that gives the community strength that can easily be started as just a small meetup group around the church. And from that, all sorts of things are possible. And as and back to the Tech Ranch, as we get stronger and as we develop more programs that help at reach, that is virtually, please take advantage of everything that we put out there. We'll be coming out with a new website that has many more tools like that. But don't wait for that. Start a local meetup group inside of the church for technologists and entrepreneurs, or it could even just be, doesn't even have to be about technology businesses. It could just be about, a baking company, working with a restaurant, working with that sort of stuff is much more powerful than people forget. A lot of times in the United States, we forget that in olden times, I'm a farmer and you're a farmer, and I'm going to help you build your barn. You're going to help me build my barn, right? The community thing.
Right.
The government, no one else is really involved, and it's whether or not we do this, you and I working together, that's really we have power. My grandfather used to tell me stories about the 7 years that his cotton crop was hailed out, like totally destroyed. How is it he took care of my aunt, my uncle, and my mom during that time? The whole secret to that is he just worked in the community, and they were involved very deeply in their church. Their church community is what made it possible for my family during my mom's my grandfather's time to get through the hard times. I had the fortunate experience that my grandfather told me that story during some of the rougher moments of my entrepreneurial career in the 90s. Mm-hmm. And it's because of that I was able to get through some of the roughest times. This can happen at a local church. It's just a matter of getting a group of people together and starting the conversation.
Certainly. Definitely the power of community, and I appreciate you for saying that. As we get ready to close out, Kevin, man, are any final words for us, as well as maybe how we can be praying for you?
I definitely would first say the prayer of gratitude. When I lost my friend, it was really painful, and I had extreme rage that came out of having someone take her own life. And it almost destroyed me. And I would actually just say, first and foremost, a prayer of gratitude that I found a path that could be meaningful and make a difference. And so it has to start with that. Secondly, the work shouldn't stop at the place that we're at now. And just, it's definitely the strength for taking even bigger risk into the future. Mm-hmm. I'm looking forward to actually having chances to take this work and supporting as many more entrepreneurs as we possibly can. And so prayer in those two areas, knowing first and foremost for gratitude for finding a way to deal with a pain that happened and actually transmuting it into something that was beautiful to see in the world. And then thirdly, I'd like to say, there are a lot of entrepreneurs that are taking risk. I would just ask that we keep them in our thoughts and prayers, because they are the people who really change the world, and they're taking sometimes the road that is much harder than any of us are prepared to do. And it would honor me to actually have them be a part of this, because we're in this together and working with each other. So
great. Well, Kevin, thanks so much for your time, man, and may God bless you and everything that you're doing with Tech Ranch and all of the great startups that you're facilitating and that you're kind of serving as that incubator. You're doing a great work, man, and we know that great things are going to come from it. So thanks so much for your time today.
Yeah, thank you, Sharon Michael, for this opportunity, and I greatly appreciate the work you're doing and sharing like you do the different messages that we're sharing forward. So thank you for that as well.
Certainly. Well, have a great day, man.
You too.